Hello everyone, this is Helios Raven. I tell you how I do it, even if you don't care. And we're going to continue with our in-depth look in the Imperial Navy with their battle cruisers. Before I continue, I just want to note you should please read the description of the video because there is some important information regarding the rules with this. And also, just to make note, unless I say otherwise, you can safely assume that each cruiser that I talk about has 8 hit points, moves at 20 centimeters, has 45-degree turns, 2 shields, 6 armor in the front, and 5 on its sides and rear, and 2 turrets. Unless this is different, I'll mention it. If not, you can assume that these stats are the ship's stats. So, now continuing on, we're going to look at our first battle cruiser, which is the Imperial Mars-class battle cruiser. This is a really nice ship, especially since it's very well rounded. It's got hangar bays, which can either hold fighters or bombers, so you got your intercepting bombers and torpedoes, or protecting ships with your fighter option, or an offensive option, which is launching bombers to do bombing runs on ships, which are great since they're one of the few things that get through enemy ship shields. And it's got two squadrons it can launch on either side, so you can make a total of, you can have 4 tokens on the field with this one ship, so that's actually really nice. It's got 6 weapon batteries on its left and its right, so it's 6 and 6 with 45 centimeter range, which is pretty good. Again, this makes it really good for short range distance. I like to try to avoid using batteries in long range since their weapon strength gets smaller, and when it does, that means there's less dice, since your firepower or your strength dictates how many dice you roll. It also has a dorsal lance. It has 2 of these, which can fire at 60 centimeters in its left front or right arc, which is great since lances always wound on 4 pluses, and is a really nice thing. And it also has a Nova Cannon, which is really awesome because Nova Cannons are one of the most powerful weapons in the game. And so, in retrospect, looking at it, you can basically use this cruiser as a battleship if you want. Instead of spending the points for the battleships, which are pretty expensive, you can go a little bit cheaper and use a Mars-class battleship and use that as your battleship supplement if you want to have like a capital ship in your fleet. A note here is that the Mars ship, the Impervious, was retrofitted with a special targeting matrix. So basically, what this means, for 15 points, the Imperious Mars battle cruiser can get a shift to the left when it fires its weapon batteries, which is great. It gives it a higher chance of rolling its maximum dice with its weapon batteries. Now, the next ship that we're going to talk about is the Overlord class battle cruiser. This battle cruiser is pretty good as well. It's more of a close quarters types of ship. It's really good for getting right into the center of a fleet and just bombarding it on both sides to really do some really good damage, because it's got 8 strength weapon batteries on its left and right side, which fire at 60 centimeters. Again, like I said, weapon batteries aren't great for long range, but it's good to be able to fire something at a fairly long distance. It's got a 60 centimeter lance weapon battery with a strength of 2 that fires in its left front and right arc, which is again also a really nice weapon to always have. And it's got 6 torpedoes. So I kind of consider this it's a nice cruiser, but it's one of these cruisers that does require to have 2 of them to really do some good damage, because that's basically how Imperial Guard seems to roll with most of their stats. So I'd consider this like a nice partnership to go with, like either a battle cruiser or a battleship or another battle cruiser, and be a nice, really defensive ship, and it's really good for just getting in there and doing damage really quickly. So it's best to try and get this ship into the front line and in the fray a lot faster. So if you're trying to play a more long-rangey type of army, this one's probably not the best ship to pick. Also, a note is that the Saipira Probati Overlord class battlecruiser can, for 10 points, increase its turrets from 2 to 3, which is not a bad deal. It's a pretty decent upgrade. And it's only 10 points, so it's definitely worth taking. Now, the next cruiser in our listing is the Lunar class cruiser. Now, the Lunar class cruiser is again one of these better close quarter combat ships. It's got two lance batteries on its left and right arc that fire at 30 centimeters with a strength of 2. And I'm sorry, these are lances. I misread it. It has two lances on each side of its ship that fire at 30 centimeters, and then it's got 6 weapon batteries on its left and its right, and it's got 6 torpedoes it can fire from its front. Not a bad ship. This is a little bit more of a well-rounded ship where it can fire some weapons at a greater distance without any penalty, and it's got some pretty decent weapon batteries, so it can do a fairly decent long range, but its more focuses on close range and hindrance since it's got torpedoes it can launch everywhere. So it's a really nice defense. It's basically a mid-range. It's not quite. It's okay at long range, but it does better at close range combat, if you ask me. So this is again one of these ships that you'd probably have a bunch of escorts around and try to drive it, up the front as fast as you can to do the most damage you can with the ship. Also to note that that particular cruisers, the Minotaur and Lord Darius, can replace their torpedoes for a Nova cannon for 20 points, which then turns it into also a pretty decent cruiser. You could probably also get away with this being sort of like a pseudo battleship replacement instead of taking the points for a battleship itself, since it is a lot cheaper than doing that, than taking a battleship yourself instead. And the next cruiser that we got on our list is the Tyrant class cruiser. The Tyrant class cruiser is pretty decent. It's, again, one of these close range ships. I'd probably try to group this with at least another ship and run it as a pincer, get two of them to get alongside one ship and pelt it from both sides. It's got 2 sets of weapon batteries, which is a little odd. One set on each side, on its left and its right, have a strength 4, range 45, and then its other set has a range of 30 centimeters and 6 strength, which is great if it gets close up, but again, like I said, weapon batteries do pretty decent amount of damage, but if you are unfortunately too far away and the ship's not angled right, you end up usually rolling less dice than you would hope with such numbers with your weapon batteries. And it does have 6 POW torpedoes, which it fires in the front, which is again really nice. This is also again one of these ships you'd probably want to partner and with groups and just really cause a lot of annoyance for when the enemy gets really close to your ship. It can, if it wishes to. The Zealous and the Dominion can replace their 30-centimeter weapon batteries with 45 centimeter range batteries and adding 10 points to its cost. The Zealous can also replace its torpedoes with a Nova cannon at 20 points. And if you do that, that makes it a pretty decent long-range ship as well. I wouldn't consider this a battle cruiser replacement, but it's still a nice ship. It's again, I'd probably take this in groups of 2. Any of these ships I'd probably take in groups of 2, but a lot of these can only really survive well if they do put in groups. And this ship is again one of those you have to really get it in really fast to really take advantage of all of its weaponry that it's got going towards it. And now it looks like I am running low on time, so we'll end it there, and I'll continue this in another video, which I'll post immediately after this one. So, until next time, this is Helios Raven, signing off.